Thrilled to have on the show. I saw what he had to say on Pardon the Interruption yesterday and on ESPN about his beloved Chicago Bears, and I said basically a text, please bestow us the honor of phoning into our program tomorrow. He said yes, and he is here. He is Michael Wilbon from Pardon the Interruption. How are you, sir?
I'm good, especially with that lead-in of Ball Brotherhood.
Yes,
Come on, Rich. This is, I mean, you know,
Yep.
I took it off in 1994, so I'm coming up on 30 years.
So that's when you tapped
of
out?
No hair.
You tapped
and
out?
The notion that, you know, toupees and,
Right.
you know, sewing, you know, seeds in your head. What are people talking about, man? I told people if I had known the reaction that I was going to get, particularly from women at the time, I would have shaved it all off when I was 11. This is not, you know, I mean, you know, guys who shave, not guys who look like Tony and have to keep the side panels. If you shave it off, people aren't looking back. You don't see people who shave their heads, mature, grown men. I'm not talking about 20-somethings playing basketball. You don't see mature men go, oh, I lament the loss of my hair. Take it off, dude. Get rid of it.
Well, I think I saw the other day that Shaq, because he lost a bet, had to grow his hair in to see what it looked like. So what would you have?
See, that tells you lose a bet now. That's the only way you grow it back if you're shaved.
So what would yours look like now? Would you have the horseshoe? Is that what it would look like?
I'm sure. I guess I've never even tried it. I haven't tried one. I shave pretty much every other day. A radical departure is a fourth day, having 3 days of hair. I don't ever have it, so I don't know.
Well, you know, the person
don't have to worry about
the person who's constantly after me to you know put hair on my head is the current Jackson State head coach dominating in the HBCU football world, Dion. Dion says that he was
there you go.
Dion said he was the comeback player of the year as soon as he put his hair back on. He says it's by just chance. That's what he called himself, the comeback player of the year.
Comeback player of the year. That's hysterical.
All right, Michael, let's get to the matter at hand. Your 2 cents for this audience on the Andy Dalton signing by the Chicago Bears. Have the floor, sir.
It has nothing to do with Andy Dalton. The story of the Bears and signing of Andy Dalton has nothing to do with Andy Dalton. It has to do with, once again, the Bears are inadequate at the position of quarterback, which they've been. They've really been that since Jim McMahon. That's what they've been. I mean, don't anybody ever try to tell me that Jay Cutler mattered. I don't care if he made a Pro Bowl or not. He didn't, because he was so much less than even what he promised. If you remember, Jay Cutler used to say, "My arm is stronger than John Elway's." So what, dude? So what? It's amazing that the signature, one of the signature franchises, the founding franchise of the NFL, just doesn't understand how to acquire the most important position in North American sports. Doesn't know how to do it. Doesn't know how to draft one, build one, trade for one, sign one, nothing. And so this general manager, how this guy, Ryan Pace, is allowed to even try to acquire one when he's the guy. You know what? Chicago, the most famous athlete in Chicago history, Rich, was passed over by another team, the Portland Trail Blazers, even though they had Clyde Drexler. And they had a reason you could say, wait a minute, we sort of have, coming out of college, we think that Clyde Drexler, a guy who's a member of the Dream Team, a Hall of Famer, a Final Four member in college, and an NBA champion. We've got him, so we're not going to sort of duplicate. That's the logic there. That's not illogical. It didn't work, not to the tune of Jordan, but it didn't work. Ryan Pace not only passed over Patrick Mahomes, who is seen as the best player in the league today, he passed over Deshaun Watson in the same draft, picking higher. You don't have to move up. You just got to take one of them. That guy is entrusted to then continue on to fix the quarterback problem. And this is what he comes up with? I mean, the notion that they were going to get Russell Wilson was, to me, insane. I got a crying 13-year-old in my house who roots for the same team as his father. And every day he would come to me, Dad, we re-signed, Robinson at wide receiver. Doesn't that mean we're going to get Russ? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. It means we're going to do the same. It means we're going to get Mike Phipps. 30 years later. 40 years. What is 40 years? Probably Mike Phipps. That's what we do. That's our move.
But,
and by the way, I'm
yes.
not even saying that he could have gotten them. I'm just saying the notion he's going to go aggressively and take a big swing and offer the whole team. You know what you could have said 5 years ago? It was the 2017 draft, right? You could have just said, and with the so-and-so pick in the draft, I think it was third, the Chicago Bears take, fill in the blank, Deshaun Watson. Fill in the blank, Patrick Mahomes. He didn't do either. He went and got a guy who had started 11 times in college. And by the way, I don't think Mitch Trubisky's a bad quarterback, especially if he had a coach who wanted to coach him instead of wanting to make somebody fit the system or go out and get a statue, who won a Super Bowl for Philadelphia a few years ago. The two of them, the combination of them, Rich, it's infuriating.
Yeah, I mean, you've said that before, Michael, and I want to pull on that string a little bit right here. Michael Wilbon from Pardon the Interruption, our friend from the Worldwide Leader in Sports. You've said that before on your last appearance that Nagy didn't want to coach Trubisky, doesn't want to coach him, didn't want to coach him, and yet he took the job knowing it was his job to fix him and won Coach of the Year by in so doing. So what do you mean by that?
I mean, I've had Kansas City Chiefs players tell me to my face, and I'm not going to name them. These were off-the-record conversations. I probably shouldn't be mentioning it. 2 years ago, when the Super Bowl, that they knew that he didn't want to coach. He didn't want to coach him. It's not a secret. When I say didn't want to coach him, he had Patrick Mahomes as a red shirt. That's not the same skill set as coming to coach Trubisky. And everybody knows it. When I say it's an open secret, they're former Bears. And I don't mean just guys from '85. I mean they're recent former Bears who I run into and they go, dude, he doesn't want to coach this guy. He wants somebody with a different skill set. But this is not something that we do in mass media, Rich. We don't criticize the coaches too often. And on Sundays, the guys in the booth are either ex-coaches or quarterbacks who've had great relationships with their coaches. The coaches don't really get criticized in the NFL. They really don't. And this is not my own observation. This is me putting the reporter hat back on and just listening. And maybe a 10% observation, but 90% listening to people who are in the industry of football. I mean, just look at the plays that were called. Look at how the offense ran in Trubisky's best games, in his best time. Look at how disgusted he gets with the plays called for him. Look at his own development. Look at what he was when he came into the league in the second year the Bears go 12-4. And I think he was 10-3 in that time. He missed a couple of games. So what? And this should not be treated like rocket science. It isn't rocket science. And there are too many people who know, and there are too many people who believe it, and there are too many people who know and have spent years and years and years and years in the NFL for whatever it is they do, and they know. So this may be too much inside baseball around the rest of the country. In Chicago, it is not. And so now they've gone and they've replaced Trubisky. Essentially, they're going to bring him back too. There doesn't seem to be any sign of that. So what are they doing?
That would be something else if they brought him back. Michael Wilbon here on the Rich Eisen Show. And just to push back a little bit here, as you know, the Bears tried for Russell. They took their swing. We hear from our colleague Dan Patrick about 3 first-rounders, 2 starters, some other draft choices.
That would have been insane, by the way.
Well, but even that though, I would, if I'm Seattle, I would have told him to forget it too. With a coach who's pushing 70. And Geno Smith as the alternative that's currently sitting right there for the moment. And, other alternatives that are around out there are not even close to Russell Wilson, and you can't even get up to close to the top 5 from their position because they've already coughed up their first-round draft choices this year. Next, you can't even package what the Bears give them with what they already had.
They don't have the assets.
So they don't have. So it's just not a match. Certainly in a way that, say, the Jets or Miami or that it's not a match in the same way that other teams.
It's not a match to acquire him now.
No,
I'm not angry about now. This is retroactive anger. They had a pick, Rich. They could have just walked to the mic and said the Chicago Bears, with the 3rd pick in the draft, select Deshaun Watson. There's no pushback on that. This is the same guy. This is the same GM. They could have walked to the mic and said, the Chicago Bears was the third pick in the draft. Select Patrick Mahomes. No, they weren't going to get Russell Wilson this time. That was a fraud. That was just garbage. They weren't going to come close. They don't have the assets. And to tear up the whole team, what kind of team would Russell Wilson be quarterbacking if they had given all that away to get him?
I agree with you. I never thought it was a fit from the beginning. But that said, though, that's you're already hearing from the Bears and many other places that they're definitely talking to members of our profession to say we tried and we didn't even ask for it. That's what Peter Schrager said in hour number one. Someone from the Bears told him we didn't even ask that it was his agent who put it out there to Adam Schefter that he'd like to go to Chicago. And as soon as that happened, we pounced. We tried to make it happen. They even had some meeting in North Dakota, apparently at Trey Lance's pro day, and they try to make it happen. So the guy who he tried to rectify the mistake that you said, the original sin, I guess to use your analogy here.
There's no rectifying that. It set the franchise back at least 10 years. It's going to be 10 years unless they come up with something or Andy Dalton, has a, a Trent Dilfer season. It's possible. He's a veteran guy who's got a better than 500 record.
Brad Johnson.
This is not about Dalton.
Like Brad Johnson. He could do the Brad Johnson.
That's another one. That's right. That's another good point, Rich. But the point is not that they failed to get him now. They were never getting him now. They don't have the assets to get him now. This points out that no matter what they do, the franchise cannot get a quarterback. Rich, how many Pro Bowl, and I haven't looked this up, I guess Cutler had one Pro Bowl appearance, didn't he? I think he did. And Jim McMahon must have had at least one. I mean, what are we talking about? Jim McMahon's best season was 35 years ago, and we're still dining off that. I saw Jim in Arizona not too long ago, and I just said, "You got eligibility left," and he just started laughing. This is 100 years, and you got like 4 quarterbacks that you'd want to pick on your roster.
So what would be the fix for you, Michael? Because you're clearly giving a voice to a ton of Bears fans that still can't get over what Ryan Pace did atop the draft in Philadelphia those years ago. So what would be the solve? Blow everybody out, start from scratch?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to have people who. And by the way, like there's some venom being directed at the McCaskies. I don't have any of that. I mean, they basically say this is not, we try to hire football people to do this. He's not meddlesome. He's not meddlesome. George's not meddlesome at all. But it may have to be, okay, let me hire someone who can tell me who to hire. Because this is not working. This isn't working. And it doesn't, I thought, okay, when you go 12-4, and even after you lose a game that, how can the coach and GM help that? I don't know. Maybe have a better kicker, but I'm not going to blame them for that. The double doink game. I thought, okay, this seems to be really headed in the right direction. Well, it's not headed in the right direction, Rich. And it hasn't been headed in the right direction since they fired Lovie Smith. They fired Lovie Smith coming off a 10-6 season, in which, to me, the solution then was to call Norv Turner and say to Lovie, we are going to fire you. Here's your offensive coordinator. We're going to give you the best guy in the game today, or one of the 3 best, to finish this thing that you can't quite finish. Super Bowl appearance, NFC title game appearance. Fired him off 10-6. How's that gone since? So you have to have people at the top of this, football operations people. I'm not talking about the owner. There's no toxic owner. There's not that. He wants to win. But wanting to win and knowing how to win are 2 different things. But I think, I've gotten, the number of texts generated yesterday. Inside baseball, Tony and I had pretty much decided on what was going on PTI and taped it when the Andy Dalton news came in. And I did not want to go back into the show. And I said, all you guys are going to do, my producers, is make me angry and make me nuts and get me in trouble.
Yeah, but that's 5 good minutes, Michael.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah, it is, Rich. And they knew what they were doing, right? And they just turned and walked away from the fire. from the brush fire that I, of course, was happy to throw gasoline on. So, but let me just tell you this.
Yes.
So of all the people, Rich, I buy tickets to go back to Bears games. I don't go as a credential. I'm not a credential reporter covering the Bears. I don't do that anymore. I buy tickets because my son says, "Oh, Dad, we got to go." I've never seen Tom Brady in my whole life in person. Your whole life, you're 11. What are you doing? We'll go. We fly back. I buy tickets to see Brady 2 years ago. Last time we could go. Dad, can we go see Patrick Mahomes? Yeah, this is going to make me angry. But we will fly out and see Patrick Mahomes play against the Bears. So I do this every year. I love doing it. But you know what? Before I die, I would like to see a competent quarterback. That's all. And I don't think the guys there can create that at the top of the football operation, not the owner. I'm talking about Ryan Pace, and I'm talking about Matt Nagy. And these guys are not dumb. They are not stupid. They are not. They are professional football people. But they don't seem to be able to get this right. And I'm talking about whoever they could have taken and whoever they did take. How's it working? Bottom line, sports is the greatest bottom line thing. How is it working? I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't want to hear from PR. I don't want to hear spin. I don't want to hear what they tried. How many teams have signed quarterbacks in the last 30 years, Rich? Almost all of them. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them. I mean, I live in a city where Joe Gibbs won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks.
Yep.
He went and got Doug Williams from another league. This is but again, we don't really, players get criticized and coaches get criticized for game day decisions if things don't work out. But the overall overarching kind of criticism that says, what are you doing? That goes insulated for the most part.
Michael, thank you for responding to my text amongst the no doubt avalanche of texts. Have you come on this show? I always appreciate it. I was going to
forward you a few last night, and I decided from people that you know.
Yes, I'm sure.
That you have covered, but I decided to spare you our angst out in the great Midwest, and so I'm happy to come on and vent some more with you, my dear friend.
Always appreciate that. Best to Mr. Tony, please, and everybody else on the set. Thank you.
All right, be good now.
We'll chat again soon. There you go. They broke the mold. One of my favorites, Michael Wilbon.
Dude, the best.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.